Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bionis from Mission Start Podcast, and if you enjoy listening to us not only on the website but also on iTunes, be sure to check us out on Stitcher as well. Stitcher is an iPhone, Android app, also on other smartphones. You can download for free, and also registration is for free too. It's an app that you can listen to any podcast that is on there without ever downloading a file. When you register with Stitcher, be sure to put in promo code Mission Start or Conover or both, and you get to automatically be entered into a $100 prize every month from Stitcher. So be sure to check us out, support us, and we'll support you guys. Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bionis from Mission Start Podcast. We have another week edition of the Conover, going from last week's episode of friendship, furries, ponies, and all that fun jazz, to the adventures of Wondercon in Anaheim with comic books galore and superheroes and whatnot. With me tonight to explain his adventures is Jeremy.
What's up?
Now, Jeremy. So this is gonna. What number is this for you as far as like WonderCon in Anaheim?
Oh, it's the first time I've been to Wondercon.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've been close to making it to a couple, but I had some family issues the last couple of years, so I had to back out at the last minute.
Ah, okay. Awesome. So since it was your first time, when you went to go check out the venue and where it was at, any first reactions as far as like when you got there?
Sort of. The last time I've been to the Anaheim Convention Center was 2006 for the last Anime Expo out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I read some stories that they had okayed a recent expansion that they haven't broken ground on yet. But I also heard that they had finished some other construction back in January, I think, of last year. So I was really curious to know what exactly had happened out there. You can see maps galore, but that won't tell you the whole story until you actually get there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like for people who don't know, WonderCon used to be in San Francisco for a very long time, and it was kind of one of the few things San Francisco had for us convention wise. They had to move it out to SoCal on their venue because they were working on reconstruction of the convention center downtown San Francisco.
Yep.
And since then, they have not had, I guess, an agreement as far as like which date and time to put WonderCon back to San Francisco.
Well, 2012 was supposed to be a one-time thing. It was supposed to go back the following year.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I read, the renovations finished on time to their chosen venue in San Francisco. Problem is, by the time they signed the dates, the hotels already had a couple of events going on that weekend and wouldn't give them a break on their hotel rates.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say a break, I mean they wouldn't give the attendees a break on the rates for a room block. So they just said, okay, so I guess we're stuck in Anaheim another year. So they did another year. From what I understand, attendance exploded in those 2 years. So by the time this latest year came around, they kind of did some beer scratching. And he said, so do we move back?
Yeah, it becomes one of those questions where it's like, maybe they should stay in SoCal, or maybe they should have one there, but also have one also in San Francisco WonderCon, having two cons going on different times and days.
There's all kinds of rumors as to what they say Comic-Con International was going to do, but regardless of what happened, there's only one scheduled WonderCon, and that's Anaheim now.
Yep, for sure. And I think right now, I mean, money talks. Money does talk. And I think right now they're pretty happy where they're at right now in SoCal.
Yeah.
But aside from that, so when you first arrived there, what were some of the things you noticed first? Just the first thing you saw and whatnot.
The central island that now exists between the Anaheim Marriott and Hilton
Mm-hmm.
has been expanded so that as soon as you get to the edge of the hotels, it takes up the entirety of what used to be Convention Center Way.
Okay.
So it's not a through street through the block anymore. It is now a partial street that stops at a roundabout in front of the hotels. They've added this central island that has fountains on both ends and has a walkway that's supposed to simulate water. But the thing that first hit me after I got out of the car and was letting people take bags out of my Scion was that this thing is now big enough that Wondercon parked several food trucks down this island.
Smart.
Yeah, so now people can not just get something to eat close by, but they can actually walk away from the front door and leave enough room for other people to walk by.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I totally dig when conventions do that. I think one of the few, I think the conventions I went to that did that in my time was Anime Expo, and how they had food trucks parked right in front of the convention center, and that is the most smartest thing to do.
Yeah, however, at the Los Angeles Convention Center, there really isn't much room for that. I mean, when people start lining up, they start choking up several walkways.
That's true, but it beats walking a good amount of time to find a place to go eat. So it's right there for convenience sake.
This is all a matter of perspective. I've seen them park a few food trucks on that bridge behind the bridge at the Los Angeles Convention Center, so they could do something more orderly. They just have chosen not to, I guess.
Right, for sure. So it was it a 2-day or a 3-day event?
It was a 3-day event. It ran from Friday to Sunday.
Okay. What were some of the things that you were intrigued by, or any events or panels that you were kind of interested to go check out?
There weren't many panels that caught my initial fancy. A lot of them are, not really fan-oriented. I'd say small press-oriented. There was a few websites and podcasts promoting themselves. There was only one or two major panels. One was by Fox Movies, who was really hip to make the last push for Days of Futures Past and the Spider-Man movies ahead of the releases. No new footage was there, but there was a special panel for Batman's 75th anniversary this year.
Ah, okay.
And it had several notable people, including like Kevin Conroy and Ralph Garman and Kevin Smith and a couple others.
Cool.
I think Paul Dini as well. So it was literally a matter of there was only one major panel, but kind of due to time frames and me running around everywhere, I didn't get into it.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if it has anything to do with that Batman short they released I think like a month ago or several weeks ago.
Well, those are part of the celebration of the 75th, but I don't think they have any. I don't think they have any direct correlation. I think they just replayed those shorts.
Okay, interesting. Cool, awesome. So, you're walking around the venue, you're checking out the place, you see cosplays and whatnot. Just a curiosity, how big was the dealer's room, or the kind of, I guess, main area that everybody was at?
They took up half of the main hall in the bottom level of the convention center. And the main hall runs pretty much from door to door in the place, or end to end, I should say. So it's a significant amount of space they took up. To put in perspective, that's the same amount of space Anime Expo usually took up for their dealer's hall.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Damn. For people who don't know, that is like the size of, like, I'd say 2.5 football fields, or somewhere along those lines. My math may be a little wrong, but it's pretty huge.
It's a little. Think of it as 2 football fields plus the sidelines stacked up next to each other.
Yeah, definitely. It's still pretty huge. It's still pretty big, but that's awesome. Oh, yeah. That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, it was sizable. It was impressive. They had several dealers with large style booths. DC brought back their Comic-Con booth from last year and reused it. Stylin, I think it's called Stylin Online. They're a T-shirt vendor. They brought back their T-shirt tower.
Nice, awesome.
Let me see. Lion Forge Press was there with an impressive setup. I think Top Cow was there, but I saw Kotobukiya brought their booth.
Oh, sweet, awesome, sweet. Yeah, definitely. Was the entire area, was it like separated in some areas? Like one area is like where all the vendors and dealers were, and then the artist alley, and then was it something like that?
Yeah, this is Comic-Con International, and those of you that have heard my Comic-Con report heard about how the place was segmented. They purposely put small press in one area and the major booths in the middle and artist alley in one section, and comic sellers, golden age comic sellers had their own section, silver age comic sellers had their own section, and so on.
Nice,
This is
awesome,
structured the same kind of way.
cool.
They released a map that every time there was a large booth, they just put an icon down there as to what you were looking at, and then the smaller booths were all numbered. But of course, there are sections that are color coded, so you know exactly where the artists are sitting. You know exactly where the comic sellers are going. Silent Online, you can tell the 3 points that they had booths in this room.
Nice, awesome.
There's no mistaking the giant DC logo that was down front.
Awesome. Oh, excuse me, it says burp is coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Had a good dinner.
Yeah. I should say though, just because they use the 2 halls for the exhibit hall, doesn't mean that's all they use from the bottom floor. They rented another part of the hall, another quarter of it. Hall A was nothing but registration. Well, I should amend that. It's nothing but registration and lines.
Oh.
So they had registration in the middle of the place. On the left side, they had an indoor line for people waiting to get into the exhibit hall. On the right side, they had an indoor line for people waiting to get into the arena and the major panels.
They
didn't have any outdoor lines unless you chose to do something stupid.
Interesting. How long was the line? Just when you got there, or when you saw it there?
The line for what?
Line for registration.
Oh, okay. I wasn't asking that because I didn't understand. I was literally asking that because there was no line.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I got there on Saturday morning, 2 hours before the convention opened. I figure, okay, I'm going to beat the odds and deal with something short here. It couldn't have been any shorter. There was literally no line. They were just waving people up as they came.
That's cool. That's interesting too, huh? I would assume that there must have been a good amount of staff that could handle registration pretty well then.
They may have overhandled it, frankly.
Really? Was it?
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, literally, as I was walking up, there was like a dozen people holding up signs that say, "Can help you now."
That's awesome.
And they were chatting with each other. They were friendly. They weren't zombified because it was the middle of the convention.
Right.
They were literally just going, "I'm over here, come here, come here. This guy's cool, come here."
That's awesome, huh? It's pretty cool. I love to hear when staff goes out of their way to make sure that the person coming in is well taken care of.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mention that because like I would assume like WonderCon in SoCal, like I'd assume that it would be kind of jam packed, not like to the status like a Comic-Con or kind of in that way, but like just enough to where like there may be a good lines for almost every other thing. But it's interesting to hear.
You would think so, but Comic-Con is a non-profit, but I've always had the inference that even though they're some of the more expensive shows, they understand where their money needs to go.
For sure, for sure.
I have no idea if their CEO is paid similar to the SPJA or anything like that, but I never get the feeling that that money is just going into other people's pockets or to entice certain people to appear. Their shows are always to the point where their money is used to make things run faster. If it's not running faster, they're not happy.
Interesting. Interesting. But that's cool. It's awesome to hear. What was the general admission for people that were going?
The admission was only $50 for a 3-day weekend, so it's comparable to a lot of other conventions of its size or scope. But God, when did I get my room? I think I got my room about 2.5 months before the convention opened. And it turns out I did it at the right time because a week later, not only did they announce that their hotels were pretty much sold out, but they had sold out of both 3-day and Saturday, and I think they were nearly out of Friday badges.
Wow. So every badge is pretty much sold out.
Everything but Sundays, but by the time the convention opened, they were completely sold out. There was nothing offered at the door.
Wow. Awesome. And the price is pretty good too, because the price is at a good it's at a good rate. $50 for a 3-day weekend is actually pretty good. Compared to
It's average.
Yeah.
It's not special, but
yeah,
for a
sure.
3-day con, you kind of expect somewhere between 40 and 50.
For sure. What were some of the so you were there for the past 3 days. What were some of the cosplays that you checked out?
There was an interesting grouping. I mean, it's a comic book convention, so it's mainly comic book. that is a given.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like cosplay is getting more intricate at these things for varying reasons. I mean, there used to be a lot of hate between anime cosplayers and comic book cosplayers.
I can imagine.
It's not for any good reasons necessarily, but a lot of just kind of unknowing animosity, because the idea was, I guess back then, if you don't like comic books, you're into anime, and you're either like one or the other. So if you like one, you're not a fan of the other.
Right.
I think another thing about it, though, was that back when cosplay was new, a lot of anime fans were doing it because the costumes were not very intricate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of early animated shows, the costumes were pretty simple. It was easy to do. Comic book superheroes, that's a lot of lycra and spandex, and it's not as easy for somebody to just kind of start out.
Not to mention you had to be in pretty good shape to wear it, too.
Yeah. So there was that added bit of animosity. Comic-Con cosplay is light, just because the number of people there. It's 120,000, and there's not a lot of great places to gather.
Mm-hmm.
Cosplay at Wondercon is freaking off the chain. I do think that Fanime has better cosplayers overall. I think they're more detailed.
Right.
But, this is the first time I think comic book cosplay has turned a corner. There were people that were not only doing impressive cosplays of heroes, but they were doing impressive original ideas.
That's awesome. I always love like cosplayers who, I mean, it's still pretty cool to nail off a particular cosplay to perfection, but it's also really cool to see some original cosplays based on the character or the series.
Well, there was something I walked across that I took a couple pictures of a heavy metal take on Batman.
Nice.
And it wasn't just Batman. Somebody put together an entire crew. So you got people dressed up as heavy metal versions of the Joker, Harley Quinn, Batgirl, Catwoman, Two-Face, Scarecrow, and a couple others.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I remember staring at that just thinking, well, that's damn original.
Yeah, definitely. It's really awesome to see those type of cosplays, especially at whatever convention it may be.
Yeah.
Any particular cosplay that you kind of like, in a term like drop, not figuratively, like drop your pants. It's like, oh my god, I must take a picture of you.
There was a couple that caught my eye like relatively quickly. Some of them are people I know, so I don't want to go touting favoritism or anything. There was one lady who actually dressed up as Emma Frost in an X-Men group.
Cool, awesome.
And she was dressed up as the White Queen version of Emma Frost, which means she was in some interesting stuff that generally wouldn't be called outerwear.
Right, for sure.
But somebody else did an original take on the Enchantress that was very interesting. It was kind of similar to an old school Emma Frost, and when I asked her to do a specific pose, she kind of gave me that expression of, what kind of pervert are you?
Did you explain?
I'm trying to explain to her, I want you to beckon. I want more come hither than come here. And she gives me an expression of, freaking freak, I'm not doing what you want.
Did she really give you that look?
She gave me that look, but after I explained it to her and I made it very clear I wasn't going to touch her, she eased up a little.
Okay. That's hilarious.
It's one of those things that's hard to explain to ladies who are dressed up provocatively, is that you don't always want them to just kind of bend over and show as much cleavage as possible. You want them to emulate something, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if it's like the character that does that already, it's just like, yeah, it's kind of
And when that age difference starts coming into play, I'm 36, almost 37, so when I say something, they kind of eye me with that wariness.
You just show me like your business cards. Like, no, I'm serious. I'm taking pictures for website.
Yeah, I'll show my $20 Vistaprint business cards that just about anybody could replicate. Yeah.
That's true. But that's awesome. That's good to hear. I mean, well, it's funny. It's a funny story. So when you're walking around, like, was there any like big name stars that they had touted for WonderCon, or was there anything that they were finding ways to attract people to come check out?
I can't really. Sorry.
Nah, that's all right.
Wow. You may have to fix that in post.
Now I'm gonna leave it in. It makes us human.
Wow, I'm finishing up a cold.
Nah, it's cool.
Let me see. there weren't really any huge guests that they announced ahead of time. You know, the additions of Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman, and Kevin Conroy's panel was kind of a last minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say they kept it on the down low. It's just I don't think that was the focus of the convention. I don't think initially fans were either. I think it's turned into an interesting fan convention. But, I think the primary focus of WonderCon is just kind of commerce.
Okay. I can dig that. When I was at WonderCon in San Francisco, when I went, it definitely had that vibe of like everybody there, was nerds and loved comics and whatnot, or in cosplay. But like everybody was very mature and very relaxed. Like you didn't, like you could just walk up to somebody chat with them if you wanted to, or like it wasn't the type of things that you normally see at anime conventions where you get like your different type of people, like the hyper ones, and you got like the very cynical ones, and for me, like at WonderCon when I went, it didn't feel that. It was just like a very mature audience that was just very chill to hang out with.
Yeah, I'd say it's gaining a more youthful audience. It does seem like it's it does function as kind of a gap filler down in SoCal here. There wasn't a whole lot of major conventions that fell in the April month prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people are using it as a chance to, for lack of a better term, blow off steam, a good excuse to get in the costume for a little bit or try another costume on.
Right, for sure. I definitely get that. But interesting. So was there so you were walking around, and what other things you can't talk tonight. What were other things that you were able to check out when you were there?
One of my favorites from Comic-Con is this place that sells graphic novels for half off, like every convention, called Rocket Comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped by there and picked up a couple things that I enjoyed reading a few years ago. I just wanted copies I couldn't ruin.
Right, for sure.
I wasn't afraid of ruining anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Silent Online, I've usually avoided them because they're very busy booths.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've actually walked through them, I can see why. They have a huge selection of shirts I generally don't see in other places that are up for sale. We Love Fine was there. They're also an interesting T-shirt seller, although the stuff I would like to buy, they never have at the booth. They always have it on the website.
Okay.
Good way to make me spend money in other ways, I suppose.
Yes, exactly.
And there was... Actually, we found in the small press place where all the autographs were supposed to go down on one side.
Mm-hmm.
We ran across the guy who did the character designs on X-Men Evolution, and he was selling prints of his design sheets.
Oh, nice. Wow.
So between my wife and I, we now have prints of his story or his character and face designs of Nightcrawler and Rogue from the series.
Nice. That's really awesome.
Yeah, he signed them without even asking.
Oh, sweet. How much did it cost you?
Well, it only cost me $20 for the pair.
That's actually really good. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, I can't say they're not truly unique. They're not the hand drawings, but it's nice to be able to stop down with a guy, ask him a couple questions. I stopped and asked him because it seemed like, was it the series that came afterwards, Wolverine and the X-Men, was kind of a bridge from X-Men Evolution?
Mm-hmm.
I found out that's because he was doing the story and character design for that series as well initially.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And, I asked him, it seemed like the story started out really similarly and one fed into the another, and then this turn happened, and I can't figure out what went wrong. He said, well, I had some disagreements with the producers. I said, oh! And I left the series. Oh! Okay.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. When you were there, you explained as far as you explained a little bit earlier about the food places that were the food trucks that were nearby. Aside from the food trucks, were there any other kind of food areas people could go check out if they didn't want to go to the food trucks for?
Oh, absolutely. There's a small mini food court in the lobby of the Hilton Anaheim that's down there.
Oh, okay.
They've opened up a few places. There's an IHOP, 2 IHOPs actually within walking distance, a few other fast food places and quick restaurants nearby.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still a Black Angus.
Huh.
It's an interesting group of places. There is an issue, though, because, everything is surrounding Disneyland.
Oh, I see.
Disneyland, anybody who's been there can tell you it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Food for four can cost you easily $80 to $100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
sure.
the thing is that the surrounding restaurants are a little more expensive than normal because even at that price, there's still better options than eating inside Disneyland.
Yeah.
So they're making sure that they get their chunk of money out of you.
Okay. Okay. So there was other places you could go check out, but depending on where you go, you might spend an arm and a leg for some food.
Yeah, you just better be prepared to pay that mousy premium, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay. Cool. While we were there, just out of curiosity, did they have a cosplay contest or a masquerade there at Wondercon or in Anaheim?
They did. I didn't make it into it. I was there with my family, so I was kid watching sometimes.
Right. Right.
So I didn't get into it, but I do know they had a masquerade.
Okay. Okay.
As a matter of fact, sign-ups for Comic-Con's masquerade have opened up.
Oh wow, awesome. Yeah, I was pretty curious because I know for the longest time they had it up here in NorCal when it was up here. I wasn't sure if they had it in SoCal, but from the sound of things, they did have it, which is awesome. It's pretty cool. Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I just said cool.
Oh, okay.
Quick that post.
Yeah, awesome. As far as the staff, how was the staff? Like how? I mean, like you were kind of talking about earlier, but like, can you go more into detail as far as how the staff was, like just in general?
But it's friendly as all piss, man. I mean, the Comic-Con staff, they were all really nice. They're the ones that handled registration. They're the ones that handled interpersonal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very straightforward, and they listened pretty well.
Hmm.
What impressed me even more, though, is that they communicated well with the Anaheim Convention Center staff.
Right, right.
Who also made sure that they were on their toes. I mean, when I arrived on Saturday morning after I picked up my badge, I spotted a bunch of them standing in a hallway talking, listening to one of their managers talk about how to treat people.
Interesting.
And I don't think it was one of those cases of don't F this up. It was literally a case of, stay on your toes, be nice, don't do anything stupid.
Right. Okay. That's cool. That's great to hear. And like I said in the previous podcast, it's always good to have staff who are always there to help you out no matter what.
Well, I mean, you can always get some different things. I mean, Anime Expo, there was one year I went and I heard people complain that Anime Expo staff was okay, not special.
Right.
But they didn't speak very much with the convention center staff, who occasionally referred to the people walking around as freaks.
Right. Okay. Just wondering, out of the cosplays you saw, what was the most kind of general, any particular group that was popular at the time, in terms of being the same character or from a series or whatnot? Just
the Marvel and DC groups were Titanic.
I can imagine, but out of those groups, what was the more apparent popular one, from a series or character that was apparent in WonderCon?
I don't think you can really measure that, because the best way to measure popularity is not necessarily the cosplayers; it's the photographers. Who has the most interest in viewing things.
Good point.
And both of them just drew an insane amount of people, especially since there was a huge fountain on the end of the walkway nearest the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
It has stadium-style steps, double the size of regular house steps, up 5 tiers.
Cool.
And those tiers are generally full.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Sweet.
So as far as comic fans just being comic fans, they were out there in force.
Nice. Awesome. I have the sense that this is kind of like day one is the same as day 2 and day 3.
No. No. That's the funny thing about comic convention. You know how anime conventions are. They tend to stay pretty steady.
Right.
There's generally a burst of people that appear on the first weekend day because that's when the highest number of people have available days off and blah blah blah.
For sure.
Comic-Con and WonderCon both run the same way. It gets increasingly busier day by day.
Even on the last day?
Even the last day's the worst, man.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, my wife and I were walking around on Sunday after we checked out of the hotel, just kind of chilling, car's well packed and everything. We're not carrying a whole lot.
Uh-huh.
And she actually turned to me while we're walking around and said, "This is as bad as Comic-Con."
That's interesting because okay, I mean like outside of like comic book conventions and like even just conventions in general, like usually on the last day, it's pretty slow. People are packing up, ready to go.
Yeah.
I just find it funny that on the last day at WonderCon it was like the most busy or packed, which is just kind of funny in a way.
Well, I mean, anime conventions have, we've discussed before, anime and comic conventions have different vibes to them. I
Mm-hmm.
think the last day of an anime convention is generally what a lot of fans would consider to be bargain day. They think that's
Oh
when
yeah, definitely.
people tend to release a lot of last-minute items at low costs, and that's, I think, ever since the anime bubbles burst, that's become increasingly less likely, I think.
Mm-hmm. For sure, definitely.
However, comic book conventions, nobody has last-minute deals. I think it's more likely a bunch of people. And comic books, I think we can both agree, when you're a collector, they tend to be more expensive than anime items.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last days of comic conventions are not the days people are looking for deals. I think it's that day where they said, "Okay, I didn't spend that $50 I thought I was going to spend on food. Got to find that key issue."
I've been there many times. It's like whenever food stuff that you're gonna buy for that day, it's like, oh, I could just carry that over to the next day. Awesome.
You'd almost swear that somebody just kind of. You'd almost swear comic book fans go to conventions just swearing, "I'm going home poor."
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's okay. That's interesting though, for sure. So, will you say that when you're walking around as each day got more busier and busier, does it ever become an issue to where you're walking around the venue and like to the point that it was like jam packed and it was like body to body like kind of packed, or are we like we're looking at like a venue where like you can still walk around but it's still pretty packed?
In my opinion, it went in waves. There were times where it was increasingly hard to move to the point where I didn't think I'd get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stood still long enough and just had a little bit of patience, it seemed like serious opening would suddenly just kind of appear, and you can make it a good 10 yards before you run into someone else.
Okay. Out of the just out of curiosity, because I know there's lines at WonderCon and at Comic Con that I've learned in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Like what were like the longest lines you were seeing for whatever event or item that people were trying to get?
That was kind of the nifty part, was that even though there were some convention exclusives and lines for main events and a few panels, I really didn't see lines. I saw congestion, but I didn't really see lines. They were all very well compartmentalized.
That's awesome. That's something I love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I know how well Comic-Con International is familiar with the area.
Right.
But they definitely had an idea as to how to use this building this year.
Okay. That's awesome. It definitely shows too. Like this is their, I believe, third or I want to say even fourth WonderCon since they moved.
Yeah, it's the third WonderCon since they've come down to Southern California.
Yeah, it definitely shows like they learned a lot about the venue as well as like kind of how to use the space appropriately and to have it where like it's with the convenience for us and them at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Overall, everybody can read your report on the site, which you guys should go check it out. But like overall, in your opinion, like do you feel that over time like they're really nailing down how WonderCon should be and how the areas should be appropriate and whatnot?
I think that's the funny part, is that while they have a good command of the area and how to use it, I don't think they quite have figured out what the identity of this convention is yet. I think they had a great idea as to how it worked while everything was up north. I mean, I think they had their identity. I think it was probably by the sounds of it, attendance was only about half of what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had a good idea as to what their fan base is doing. And something tells me that since they moved to Southern California, a new group of fans has shown up. The convention has exploded in size, and I think they're trying to figure out where exactly this sits in their hierarchy. You know, is it a fan convention? Is it a commerce convention? Is it a convention where they bring guests? Because it's got small elements of all three, but it doesn't do any one of those things exceptionally well.
Interesting. Huh.
And I don't think that's for lack of trying. I think that they've increased the commerce, thinking, okay, we're getting more people, so we bring more buyers, and then they look out on the floor and say, hey, these people are bringing in costumes. What the fuck is going on here?
Interesting.
You know, and this is the first year that Fox has taken an interest enough to bring clips from movies and everything, and they've had a couple larger panels. So I think they're figuring out that this convention seems to be gaining attention, but I don't think they've quite figured out whose attention.
Interesting. That's, what's funny is, like, of all the years I've been to conventions, both anime and comic books, I've never, as a interesting take as far as, like, not having a identity as far as, like, who exactly they should target, which is crazy to think about, because, like, this is about their third year into Wondercon in Anaheim, and they're still trying to figure it out. Not to say that they're doing bad, no, from what they've been doing so far, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But definitely, it is an interesting thing to think about.
Well, I mean, every convention needs to market to its particular fan base. You got to know who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they haven't, like I said, I think they knew where it was when it was a smaller convention, but now things have shifted, and I think they're trying to figure out where exactly to put everything.
Interesting.
And what to prioritize.
Interesting. Do you think that over time, as they do more conventions in Anaheim, that they'll figure it out? Or is it going to be something of a thing where, like, they're going to keep feeling it out for a good number of years until they found something?
I guess the question is whether or not they really have to do anything. I mean, they're obviously getting more people, and they haven't seemed to have changed their model at all. It's just the fan base is changing around what they're doing. So I guess it's more of a point of maybe they just need to sit back, watch, and try and match things, year by year.
Okay. And it doesn't hurt. Well, I was going to say it doesn't hurt, but at the same time, well, it could if they mess up somewhere.
Yeah, you could royally F things up if you make the wrong change.
Definitely.
So I guess the right move right now would be patience.
Yeah, interesting. That is interesting. Wow. Okay. But overall, your thoughts on WonderCon this year, and your first time being there?
I think this has the possibility to be a seriously big convention, not just in the California circuit, but at the very least in the national circuit. Simply because it's run by a major company that already knows what it's doing. It's not used to the level of attention this convention is getting.
Right, sure.
It's just a matter of what it turns into. Is it going to be one of the biggest comic fan conventions? Is it going to be a little sister to San Diego run the same way? Is it going to turn into some kind of bizarre hybrid they've never really run before? I can't say. Because as much as I'd like to say it does several things pretty well, it's not great. It's not truly great in any one of these things, simply because of a combination of it's growing rapidly and fans are just starting to latch onto it as a place where they can show off their costuming skills.
Right, for sure. Definitely. It's going to be interesting for sure. I think, and as we talked about before, like, about the whole situation to why they moved from San Francisco to Anaheim. I think, what's I want to say that over time, as years go by, I think that they will bring back WonderCon to San Francisco, but I think what they'll do is they'll have one in Anaheim and one in San Francisco. But that's my guess, though.
I couldn't say. I mean, Anime Expo used to share time, and then they found out that they just did better business in Southern California and stayed there.
Right, for sure.
I'm starting to wonder if you're looking at the same thing, especially since, in the absence of WonderCon, Wizard World has moved into a Northern California convention, and there's still the big WoW Comic Fest going on in May in San Jose.
For sure. It's definitely a interesting thing to see, because like with some conventions out there, they can afford to have conventions, both in one or two places, and gain a good amount of money. But in some cases, like you stated, like, maybe it's better to stay in this one area because this one area is producing more money than the other area, and that maybe we should spend our resources on Anaheim and focus on that. So it should.
It's probably a little easier on them as well because they don't have to do much logistically. They're based in San Diego, so that means they take a 2-hour drive instead of an 8-hour drive, and they've arrived at the second location.
Mm-hmm. For sure, definitely. There's one thing I forgot to ask actually amongst of this entire conversation is the hotels. You talked a little bit about it before, but like, was there discounted hotels for WonderCon?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't expect to stay at the Hilton Anaheim for $120 a night, but I did.
Right. What
Well,
were
I'm sorry.
no? I was gonna ask what were the going prices for the weekend?
Yeah, it was $120 per night on the average, and they had 3 or 4 rooms in their hotel block.
Hmm.
I think I stayed in one of the more expensive places, but as you know, I'd rather spend more time in a convention and less time walking. If I had my choice.
Right, for sure, definitely.
So I just kind of did my thing as it was, and they require you to put a full night's deposit up front. Since I was staying for only one night, that means I paid my entire stay before anything even happened.
Okay.
Now, I remember checking into the hotel, and the guy says, "You're prepaid?" Yeah, yes, I am. How'd you manage that? And I had to tell him the story. He said, "That's neat."
It was magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any other hotels that were also up, or was there like particularly just one that was up for people to book their night?
No, there's the Anaheim Marriott, which is it's on the same street as Convention Center Way. It's just across the street from the convention centers. Which, actually, it's no longer across the street. It's literally across the plaza now. So it's an easy, near door-to-door walk, almost as easy as the Hilton. And then there's a Sheraton, which is down at the end of the block, which you can get to, and it's only about a 4-minute walk. There's nothing terribly inconvenient in the hotel block.
Right, for sure.
But the Hilton kind of got extra points for me because they used to have just a pool area with a garden, which is where I've taken some Dead or Alive extreme shots in past anime expos.
Mm-hmm.
They took out the garden, which initially depressed me, but as soon as I walked up to the pool deck, I realized they had an entire kids' play area.
I saw those photos of that. That was interesting.
Yeah, they had an entire water park style play area for little kids. I'm staring at that, just going, "You bunch of punks! That could have been fun."
Yes, you have a place to go and play in.
Yeah, but it is kind of a mixed bag. I found out because while they have a heated pool, they do not have a heated kids area.
Ah, I see.
So my daughter went and played the pool and was just having a fun time. My son went and played in the kid area. He came to talk to me, and then I realized he couldn't speak because his teeth were chattering.
Ah, I see.
Just, can I go back? No, you can't.
It's hilarious, but that's good to hear. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for joining me tonight to talk about all your adventures at WonderCon.
Oh, not a problem.
And before we end this, Jeremy, where can they find you on the internet?
I normally do a weekly podcast called The Rollin' 20s. It's been off for a few weeks because of a combination of WonderCon and I have been too sick to speak. I'm also on cosplay.com under the screen handle Freight. I'm scheduled to go to the Anime Expo and San Diego Comic-Con, so July is a very busy fracking month for me.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I'm trying to figure out when Kamikaze is. I'm starting to think that convention may be running into some trouble.
Oh.
Well, not for anything in particular they've done, but I don't think they've been quick enough to sign venues because they're normally at the LA Convention Center every November since they've opened. And in looking at it, it looks like the LA Convention Center is full this November.
Interesting.
So there may be something, unless they line up another venue, there could be a serious problem.
Interesting. I'll have to wait and see how things go out from there. But
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. You can follow me on Twitter at Defective Naruto. You can follow the work that me and Jeremy do on the website at missionstartpodcast.com. Please check out Jeremy's convention report of WonderCon. It's up on the site. It's pretty good. It's pretty awesome. Go, guys, check it out. As for myself, I've been busy with school and whatnot, but I am also being prepared for this upcoming convention season. Fanime for me is going to be one of the big ones, as well as going to Evo for the first time in Las Vegas. So that's going to be one interesting adventure. So if I come back and I'm like either rich as hell or broke as shit, then I think I managed to accomplish one thing or another. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We will see you guys next time.
Take care.